Well, tomorrow imagined. What a great theme for tonight's TEDx. It's full of hope, possibilities, and opportunities. All of us here this evening are invited to take part in that dreaming of tomorrow imagined. I just want to ask you, do you have a dream and do you know what you want? It's a fact. One sec. What I'd like you to do now is to hold that thought in your mind as I actually give my presentation. Having a dream and knowing what you want is vitally important, because without dreams, we don't explore the full extent of who we can become. But when we start to dream, we can have our imaginations run wild and fly into the realm of all that's possible. But for lots of people, they don't follow their dreams. Why? Because they're afraid. So they let their dreams go. Now, I'm a dreamer myself, and I know that making our dreams a reality is so important to reaching our full potential. It is so hard. It demands so much out of us. Unlike fairy tales, no one's dreams is just going to occur just like that, the click of a finger. Making dreams a reality demands commitment, focus, patience, sacrifice, our ability to endure, to be both ruthless, compassionate with ourselves, and it demands real courage to take that dream that's in our head now and make it a reality in our lives. These are not easy attributes to develop or maintain, but you know what? Every single person here has the ability to acquire those attributes. There is not one person who cannot learn how or what to do to make their dreams a reality. We start by focusing 100%, not 50, not 70, not 90. We need complete focus. Side by side of that, what we need to do is we have faith in ourselves. And when we do that, we're giving ourselves that permission, having that real chance of making our imagined tomorrow a new reality. But as I said, it's not easy. And the mindset challenge that I want to talk about tonight is fear. I believe there's not one person in this room that haven't experienced fear, whether it is fear of something real or imagined at some times in our lives. Fear is an emotion that washes over us, and sometimes it can drown us. I believe it is the biggest barriers towards living our full life. In fact, many of us live and are controlled by fear on a daily basis. Certain thoughts and behaviors can trigger that fear response even when there is no danger. It can be triggered by habitual negative thinking, by certain memories, or indeed in our imaginations. Now, when we get trapped in that emotion of fear, the options of what can happen and what we can be afraid of are endless. We can fear failure, success, our critics, the unknown changes, getting out of our comfort zone. We can even fear ourselves and our ability to fulfill our dreams. We all know what that fear feels like in our body when it reacts to it. There is a knot in the pit of our stomach. We start sweating, we start trembling, and we feel like throwing up. Have you ever felt like that? Because I have. Now, let me tell you a little bit about my own life. I'm 59 years old, and I, like most people, have had great experiences, and I've had lots of ups and downs, and my life has been a roller coaster. I have traveled the world now for 29 years, for 7 months of every year, seeking out challenges that stimulate me and the teams that I work with. My expeditions have taken me all around the world to the most unusual, the most remote, the most beautiful, the most hostile, the most dangerous places on planet Earth. I have been privileged to have been to some of the most amazing places on planet Earth. My team and I have trekked to the South Pole, an amazing place, for 60 days in temperatures of minus 20 to minus 60 degrees Celsius, pulling a sled. Expanding in energy equal to 120 consecutive marathons, while at the same time, eating over 9,000 calories each day. I have weathered storms of over 100-mile-an-hour winds. We have done crossings of Greenland, the Greenland ice cap, the other Arctic expeditions, and I've been to the North Pole. But my favorite of all is I've stood on the top of Mount Everest from both Nepal and Tibet. It was an amazing experience. Just imagine it. For a small part of time in the history, an Irish man has stood on the top of a place that took millions of years to create. There are many people who think that I am courageous and that I am immune to fear. But let me tell you this, they are wrong. Sometimes I feel that familiar wave of fear rising in me and threatening to immobilize me and to kill my dreams of tomorrow's imagined. I'm 59. My body has been the vehicle of all my expeditions, the engine which I depend on, and now that I get older, I am afraid of it getting weaker. I'm afraid that this engine won't be able to continue to do what I have done in the past. I'm afraid of having to adapt to a new lifestyle where I most likely won't be able to do the things that I love. Having lost my family once, I'm also afraid of doing something wrong that I will lose them again. But what do? What when this happens? I find my focus and I lock onto it. When I do this, the emotions of fear subsides, and my faith in myself and its ability to live the life that I want to drives me forward. I step back from the emotion of fears. I assess whether it is based on some real fear or some imagined fear. I take action, no matter how small that action is. I focus on my goal, I set it again, I visualize it clearly, then I dig deep into my self-belief. I have learned now how to deal with fear. So my days are driven by faith in myself. I keep my focus, and the wave of fear goes out with the tide of faith. Then I know that I will achieve my goals. I remember how to adapt to a new way of living when I have to. That I have now wonderful plans for the future, plans into my 60s, 70s, and 80s. Of course, that's if I still live. I remember that the bond between my family and me now will never be broken. But fear at all times can run you off track. But when you have the mindset to get back on track. I didn't always have that mindset, by the way, of faith and focus. When I was in my late 20s, my life fell apart and I lost everything that I had worked for from the age of 16 years of age. I had left school at 15 and worked night and day to build a business and make money for my family. That was the dream, and I invested heavily in it. I had all the trappings of wealth that made me feel secure, probably even invincible. Then something happened, which took out of my control. The economy went into recession. I didn't have the experience and skills to deal with the challenges that was coming my way on a daily basis. First slowly and then more quickly, all that I had built actually disappeared before my eyes. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't just my business, and it wasn't just my wealth that was disappearing, but as far as I was concerned now, I was disappearing too. I was frozen and I was trapped by fear. I couldn't find a way out, no matter how hard I tried. I was now in a black hole, and it's a terrible place to be. I just didn't want to let go of what I had created in my life, of the lifestyle that I had, but it was now slipping away very fast. I felt that my life was over, and one day I decided that I would make that a reality. And I tried to take my own life through suicide. It was only by the image of my two young sons that flashed before me just before I entered the river in Cork City in Ireland. I had now at this stage reached rock bottom, and it is true to say when you reach rock bottom, there is nowhere else to go. Of course, you could always stay there. Luckily for me, I remembered something I had learned when I was a young boy. My grandmother, who always told me that I could do anything that I wanted if I believed it, if I thought I could. So I started thinking I could again. This lesson came back to me, and instead of trying to hold on to life that I had to let it go because it was now in dust. The wealth was gone, the business was gone, and I had to accept the reality I was broke. I looked around me to see what I actually had. What was left? Well, my trade was a bricklayer. I had my family that loved me. I had friends and I had a few employees that stuck by me, and they had my back when everything had gone wrong. These, by the way, were the blocks, and everyone needs a foundation that I would build my new life from. I knew now that fear was not something to hide from, but something which we had to be faced, both real and the imagined fears. Now I started to live again, and I confronted my fears and dismantled that by taking action. And you know what? When you take action of any sort, it opens up all the possibilities and opportunities to you. Now, out of the blue, a few weeks later, after trying to take my own life, I was introduced to the world of adventure, travel, and expeditions. A new life began for me as an adventurer and an explorer. It also helped me to rebuild my lost focus and indeed my self-esteem and my business. I learned now more about fear and how to conquer it in all aspects of my life. The key lessons were about focus and faith. Keep your focus on where you are going. Be prepared to do the training. Learn the skills that you need to do whatever you want to do. Don't be distracted. Don't doubt yourself. Don't doubt the faith in yourself, in your team, and the universe. And in particular, don't quit. Now, I'd like to take you back to my dream of climbing Mount Everest. When I decided to climb Mount Everest for the first time, the statistics were amazing. 1 in every 10 climbers that would get to the summit would die. Many people advised me to say, you know, Falvey, you're mad. Why are you going to do that? You're going to die. But I had faith. I had done all the training. I knew I had the skills, and I was ready. However, as you can imagine, fear started to erode at my confidence, and I had to do something. And what I decided to do was to decide not 1 in 10 would die, but 9 out of 10 would live. I read all the accounts of all the books of everyone that summited, of everyone that died, where they died, when they died, how they died. By staying focused on my goal, by being informed and by being prepared, by knowing the risks involved, and most importantly, by having faith in myself, I went on to climb Mount Everest 4 times, reaching the summit twice. These are the strategies that I have learned on my expeditions for both dealing with and dismantling the fears that I now have in both my professional and my personal life. I've also seen at close quarters how dangerous fear can take its control over people. In 1995, I was on Everest north side with James and Mike, my 2 climbing companions. We were attempting to ascend the north-northeast ridge, the same ridge that Mallory and Irvin, those 2 historical climbers, had climbed years previously. We just arrived at the second step, one of the greatest barriers in the death zone. To reach the ridge now above, to bring us to the summit, we go into a place with a ladder. It has been put there by previous climbers. When you get to the ladder, you have to take your fixed rope off and make a leap of faith straight across the face to get to the upper reaches. As you can well imagine, it is very dangerous and a place you could die. Mike was climbing in front of me. James was climbing behind me. And just as I got to the ladder to make the move, I hit a rock the size of a television, and it actually shot past James and started crashing in thousands of feet below him. As he looked around, he seen a dead climber, a colleague of mine, Michael Weinberger, who had died in the same place the previous year. As you can well now imagine, James went into overdrive and fear took over. However, by the time now he got to the top of the ladder, something had happened. His confidence was shattered. He had done all the training. He had made moves like this on many times at lower altitude. But the falling rock and the sight of the climber sent his fear into overdrive. There I am, and I'm standing just above him, and I'm actually looking down, and I'm saying, come on, James, you can make the move. James is looking up. He can see the summit just 2 hours away. We spent 50 days. There's tears of emotion running down his face. He said, Falvey, I can't make it. I can't make it. And he kept on trying, and he couldn't make it because of the fear he had seen the body below. At that point in time, he said, go. We had agreed to go. He was on the fixed rope, so we knew descending that he would be safe. Mike and I walked away. And as we walked away for the summit of our dreams, James was on the ladder. And then I turned back once more. And as I turned back, James had made the move. This was a decision that we had discussed previously. Now, James was going to go to the summit of his dreams. It seemed no sooner had we walked away than he made the move. These few minutes, however, fear had overcome his rational mind. He was well able to make the move. Now, what happened there is that he got back into the faith of himself, and he actually made the way to the summit. Well, James now was able to find his refocus, and we made the summit together. And what I want to explain here is, when we want to move forward to our wonderful tomorrows that we are now imagining, that I've asked you to hold there in your head, we should remember James on the ladder. His goal was in view. He had done all the preparations, and a lot of us actually believe that we can achieve things, right? And he wanted to make that dream a reality. He became distracted by the danger of the rock falling. He became afraid when he saw the climber. But then he jumped out of that and made a leap across the face of Everest to fulfill his dream. What happened? Fear took over. His faith wavered, then he refocused, and then he moved back into his faith and reached his goal. His dream came true as he stood on the summit of Mount Everest. Now, how does that relate to us? No matter what fears we have, whether they are imagined or whether they are real, we must focus on our own goals. We must dig deep into our self-belief and take that leap ourselves of faith that will bring us to the summit of our own personal Everest. Everest is used as a metaphor for the successes in our lives. We all have the power to move from fear to faith in ourselves, in our communities, to live in the wonderful tomorrows that we are now thinking in our heads today. When I started, I asked you to do something for me. I asked you to hold your dreams in your heads. Have you got it? Have you all got a dream in your head? Can I just ask you to do me a favor? Can I ask you to clench your fist tight like this? Can you do it? Thank you very much. Can I ask you to think about what you have in your mind? And can I just ask you to say as an affirmation, I have the power. Go on. I have the power. I have the power. You have the power to fulfill all your dreams, goals, and aspiration, and you are the only one that can do that, nobody else. Balance your fears with faith in yourself, have focus, and make your dreams a reality. Thank you for listening to how to have the mindset conquer your fears, and thank you very much.